All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about this incredible idea called Weltliteratur. And trust me, it's going to completely change how you think about the books you love. It's really a story about connections, not about borders.
So, let me just start by asking you this. What if literature was never really French or Russian or American to begin with? What if instead it's always been this one giant, sprawling global relay race, with writers passing the baton of inspiration across centuries and continents? Yeah, this lays it all out perfectly. You know, the traditional way of thinking puts all of literature into these neat little national boxes, these silos defined by borders and a super specific context. But world literature, this idea of Weltliteratur, sees it totally differently. It sees a massive, ongoing global conversation, a relay built on connections that just leap right over those borders.
Okay, let's really dig into this whole relay race metaphor, because it is such a brilliant way to understand how ideas actually move around the world. It's time to see this thing in action.
Think about it like this, right? The French writer Rabelais, bam, he passes the baton to Laurence Sterne over in England. Sterne's work then sparks something in Diderot, who's back in France. Diderot then turns around and influences Fielding in England. It's this incredible chain reaction that just keeps going across Europe. Flaubert's realism gets picked up and completely twisted and transformed by James Joyce in Ireland. See? Each time that baton is passed, the novel itself changes. It's not a national project at all. It's a continental, you could even say global collaboration.
So you might be wondering, where did this radical idea even come from? Well, it's actually not as new as you might think. In fact, it's built on a prediction someone made almost 200 years ago.
Get this. Way back in the 1820s, the German writer Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, this guy saw it all coming. He predicted that the whole concept of separate, distinct national literatures was about to become totally obsolete. Then you fast forward to the late 20th century, and the novelist Milan Kundera brings this idea roaring back to life. He warns all of us that if we only read books inside their little national boxes, we're risking a massive, just irreparable intellectual loss.
And this quote, wow, it just shows you how unbelievably ahead of his time Goethe was. He said, national literature no longer means much. We are entering the era of Weltliteratur. You have to remember, this was the 1820s, a time of rising nationalism all over Europe. For him to say this then, it was an incredibly bold and forward-thinking thing to say. He basically saw the future of art as completely borderless.
Okay, but hold on. This brings up a pretty obvious problem, doesn't it? If this is such a powerful and, frankly, better way to see literature, why do we keep building these walls? What is this trap that keeps us from seeing that bigger picture?
Right? It's the logical question. If literature is this huge, interconnected relay, then why are bookstores still organized by country? Why do we still talk about the great American novel or classic French literature? Well, the answer, at least according to Milan Kundera, comes down to one big obstacle: provincialism.
And Kundera breaks it down for us. He says there are basically two kinds of this provincialism trap. For the big, culturally dominant nations, there's this tendency to feel like their own culture is, well, enough. The attitude is kind of like, hey, we don't need anyone else. And so they end up just ignoring the outside world. Then you have smaller nations, and it's the exact opposite problem. Literature becomes this vital tool for national survival, a proof of their identity. The attitude there is, our literature is who we are, which makes them hyper-focused on its national importance, not its universal artistic value. Either way, walls go up.
And look, this isn't just some abstract academic idea. This trap has real consequences. Think about someone like Franz Kafka. He was a Czech Jew writing in German. If he'd only been viewed in that very narrow Czech context, his universally strange modern voice might have been totally misunderstood or just lost. Or take the Polish writer Witold Gombrowicz. His groundbreaking novel Dorque took more than 15 years just to cross the border into France. It just goes to show you, a work's true innovation often only becomes visible once it finally escapes its small context and gets onto the world stage.
So that brings us to the big payoff. If we can break out of that provincial trap, what's on the other side? What's the real power we gain by adopting this outside perspective, by reading beyond our own borders?
It all boils down to this one simple but honestly pretty profound idea. Distance creates clarity. Sometimes, to truly understand a piece of art, you have to step outside of its home culture. You have to look at it from far away.
And the proof is, well, it's all over the place. You've got the wild, revolutionary spirit of the French writer Rabelais. Who really got him?
a Russian critic, Mikhail Bakhtin, centuries later. The dark psychological genius of the Russian novelist Dostoevsky found his biggest fan in the West through a French writer, André Gide. And the mind-bending complexity of Ireland's James Joyce was reinterpreted and really elevated for a global audience by an Austrian author, Hermann Brook. In every single case, it took an outsider to see what was truly new and important.
So what's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean for us? It means we should stop thinking of ourselves as a French reader or a Russian reader or an American reader just defined by our passport. The real goal is to become a world reader, someone who sees the connections, who follows the baton in that great literary relay race.
And in the end, that's really what this whole Weltliteratur thing is about. It pushes us to ask a much better, much deeper question. Not, what does this novel mean for France, or what does this book say about the American experience? The real question, the one that truly matters, is this. What does this piece of art, from anywhere on Earth, reveal about the fundamental condition of just being human?